Good evening, Trading Research here. It is August 16th, a Tuesday, and I have not uploaded or made a training video in a long time. I've got some reasons. I'm going to try to do a series of things for my own edification, I guess you'd say. But if there are any subscribers still watching, I hope you get some benefit out of this. It may come as a surprise to you too, since I've been so quiet for, gosh, maybe even a couple of years. I've been active, but I just have not made any videos. So, want to talk about what happened today, because I'm just doing a series on just different profile dynamics and patterns and things like that. So, this is the ES September contract. We have been one-time framing up for the past week, actually longer. But we had this gap here, and we've been one-time framing up into this week. We opened this morning inside range and inside value. So that's very important. And I want to talk about what happened. But coming into the day, of course, not knowing what was going to happen, this part of the screen is what we were looking at here. If you block off everything from right here to the right, that's today. This is Monday. Just a moment. We've got Monday right here, and we've got the overnight right here. And I'm going to experiment here. It's been a while since I've used this tool. Let me try this. So we've got, again, Monday right here, and started at the end of the day, closed, and then we've got the overnight session that zigzags down all the way into the open this morning. Okay. All right. So coming in, this was a nice looking pattern. I mean, it's a very clear pattern, and it's contained within parallel lines. Now, what that means is it's a corrective wave, in as far as wave principle goes. Just a moment, because I got to get the cursor back. All right. So let's see here. I guess I don't have the tool I wanted to put on here. So we've got basically. It's contained within parallel lines, and this is what I mean by that. I need to adjust my tools. So we kind of trade within this channel here. Actually, it looks like it's angled. There you go. That's a little better. And if you know anything about different patterns, this sort of looks like what's called or termed a bull flag. And that's sort of how it played out. But again, this is more of a macro view. When it comes down to trading in the day on each TPO, that's quite a bit of movement in here. And, to capture all that, it's very difficult. It looks easy in hindsight, obviously. So let's look back on coming in from the weekend. So this was Friday over here. And we just ground up, right? It just one time framed up all day long. And if you look back on the daily chart here, you can see, if we go way back, there's a big gap right here, okay? There's a lot of room for short covering. Now this chart is only the regular trading hour session, but there's a lot of room for way back here into May. There's still potential shorts that are going to be rolled back, and they're going to cover their positions as we come up, and you'll start getting pops and fast moves, but actually sometimes it's a very slow grind. And that's what we saw here on Friday, which I'm sure this is a very difficult kind of day to trade. In hindsight, it's easy. You just get long in here somewhere, right? But how many of us always try to pick a top? So this is a grind higher, but then coming into the weekend, it was again a channel. Let me see if I can pause this video. Well, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and correct this right now, because I need this tool. Maybe I can just pull it off of this. Parallel lines. Here we go. So we've got basically again a channel. It's not a very good channel, but anyway, you get the idea. And this fits that bull flag pattern. So when we come into yesterday, it continued higher. So this, again, is just basically a corrective wave. All right, I'm going to take that off. Well, we had a similar pattern today. So we could imagine that something similar would happen. And it did. But it didn't happen right away. And we've got, again, this sort of pattern, this zigzag in a kind of a channel. All right? And it continues, because we opened right here, continues into, a little bit more exaggerated, you have a lot more volume, into the C period, and then in D period, we take off out of there, okay? Now, we did close back in yesterday's range, but I'll get to that later. So, what does all this mean? Okay, coming into the day, I do a worksheet, okay, and I recommend anybody do that. I mean, you wouldn't expect your doctor to operate without looking over your file, reviewing procedures, just really being brushed up on how to go into the surgery, right? You wouldn't, let me try to think of another analogy. Oh, that's good enough. All right, that's good enough. So a doctor is going to review the plans for the surgery and make sure everything's in order before they get, we need to take the same kind of approach to trading. We need to really be tuned in, and it really helps to kind of go through the day. I have a kind of a worksheet here that some of these things on here I'm not using anymore, but I look at the news, I look at the volume, open interest, all these kinds of things, and then I also have a plan for different ways things might play out, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But I did this early on, a little bit the night before, a little bit coming into the open, and I've got that sheet right here, the part I want to talk about, and these are the different possibilities. All right, so we knew the tempo in the overnight here was kind of slow. It again had been just rotational in the Asian session and the European session, and we were down here on towards the lows of this this range, coming into the open. All right, and coming into the open, we'd had most of the news of the day. So by 9:15 Eastern time, the news was pretty well done. The only thing left was crude oil stocks API at 4:30 Eastern time. So what we're looking at, and you may not be able to see this very well. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger. Okay, we're going to open in range in value. All right, that was pretty much a given. This is the most likely thing unless there was something that happened, but it was looking good. And the first strategy would be to buy the value area low or sell the value area high. I've got some different entries of how to get in, and one of the things I'm looking for here is that market internals are kind of neutral, kind of mixed. The tempo is very slow. It's not really directional. There's not a lot of momentum, and we did experience that this morning. It was very sort of steady and slow, and it really told us that the daytime frame traders, short-term traders, were in control. Not anything major going on. And we started to build value, but we never really got a move until later to the value area high. But we did not for the first 2 hours. Let me make this bigger, okay? Each of these each of these TPOs is 30 minutes. So AB is the blue line here is the initial balance. Then we have C period and D period. It was not until the end of the second hour, actually into the third hour, that we touched on yesterday's volume value area high, okay? Now, I don't know what was going on right here because I was done. I left. I was no longer in the market. It looks like we just plowed right through it. I don't know, but we did build some value and then moved to the value area high. I don't know what the market internals were doing at this point. I can't speak to that. I was finished. But in the meantime, this plan, I had to shift, okay? This was like going to happen later if it happened, because the second story was we were going to move towards the overnight volume point of control or the prior day volume point of control. And this is just basically an overnight inventory correction because we were net short. Most of the overnight inventory was short. Here's the close, the burgundy line here. You can see right here it says settlement. So I have both on here. I have where it closes on the charts, and I also have the settlement according to the CME. We were net short. So we were short when we opened in the overnight. And we opened up, traded down a little bit, so it was open test. I want to show you something if I can. I'm going to split the profile here. Notice the volume. in the numbers how it tapered off. We opened 1467, 1600, about 2000, 1200, 500, 218. It really dramatically tapered off. It attenuated. And then it came back through the open, and it kind of moved up this way in little bits of fits and starts. And if you got long, the idea was we were going to the overnight VPOC. Again, this was the second storyline here. Move towards the overnight VPOC. So I had a couple strategies here, or entries, how to get long. So buy against the overnight value area low, or buy against the overnight low. Well, we did not get, that was assuming we get down here and test the overnight, excuse me, I don't like that word test. Nobody's testing anything, okay? We come down here and the market would come down and attempt to take out the overnight low. And if it failed, or if it took it out and came back in, you could get long in risking the new low, expecting a move possibly back to the overnight VPOC. So one of the conditions in this is that, let me pull this back in here. One of the conditions is that the market internals don't support continuation early, meaning it's not like heavily strong to the buy side or heavily strong to the sell side, and it's kind of a relatively slow tempo, and it rejects the lower distribution. Now, what I mean by lower distribution, I mean of the prior day. And this is important. I should have probably touched on this. It'll probably be easier to see this on a chart that I don't have the overnight session in there. Let me just let us reset all the profiles. I'll spread this out a bit. Okay. Let me just make it a little clearer. So you can see. You can see that there's a distribution here of volume and time. Each letter represents time. You have these single prints in E period where it broke out of the initial balance, and also the day before's prior high here. It took off out of there, and we had another distribution down here. So this was a double distribution day on Monday. Okay. So, oops, excuse me. The drawings don't go with the chart. So I just want to point that out. The plan was to move towards the VPOC, an overnight VPOC, if we reject the lower distribution. Well, at the time that it went up there in A period, so it was the first period, we got a move up there. Now remember, this is in ones, okay? So we opened up down here, tested, came up, and it was flicking around in here, and I don't remember the exact sequence, but this was the, well, I need to pull in the other chart now. The plan was to get long against the overnight value area low, which is this right here, the purple, like where I have the red line here against the purple and blue divider and this gray and the volume. So it's just on this side of the open. We come back in here. If you're expecting to move there, you could risk this low and get long, and that's exactly what happened. Now, it came up and touched that and came back down, and it took some working through, but it finally did come all the way up here to the VPOC exactly of the prior day. This was a good trade, okay? But that plan was anticipated early in the day. And again, part of the reason for it is, well, we might have this bull flag be taken out and it continues higher right in A period, or we're going to have a continuation of this pattern, which is what happened really. Let's see if this is a better color. You know, we have this zigzagging, and you got to imagine this volume profile isn't there, right? And then it comes back down. So it really did the same thing. It continued to do this pattern. Let me move these back together. Yeah. All right. It's been a while since I've done this, so getting used to it. All right. So the next thing that happened was that we broke in C period to that lower distribution. Okay, so that trade worked, but this didn't even really happen. I guess you could call this this move down in a rejection of lower yeah, you can call it that. That's what it is. I wasn't thinking about it like that, and I'll show you why. So let me use this circle here. So here's those single prints in E. Okay, so this whole area here is where really it comes out of that first distribution into the, you know, the no man's land between this and the first. This is the second distribution, and then the first distribution. So it really rejected very high up initially. So that played out according to plan, but we still have not really found acceptance into that lower distribution. So there's another opportunity if we get rejection out of there to just a moment. Okay. To potentially go long. So what happened in B period? It opened way up here, traded down through the open, came down here towards the overnight low, didn't quite get it. You know, there's plays in here for back and forth to take some bites out of the market, but C period, it broke. So it broke through the overnight low, right? Well, what are we looking for? We're looking for just coming out here and flushing out anybody who's got stops below the overnight low. Sure, it did that, but it came down here, and then notice the volume tapered off. 23.55 right here, so it maybe met some absorption here, and when it came through, I don't know, I don't remember what it was doing on the ladder, but when it came through here, it immediately drops off by half. Another level of 1,000, then it cuts in half again, then it cuts in half again, then it down to 275. So it thins out right at the beginning of this distribution. Now, one way to look at these distributions, two separate profiles. Let me split this off. Okay, so we have E just basically shot up out of here. Something changed. So you have this nice little rounded profile in ABCD and the first half of the day, then the latter part of the morning to the rest of the day, it just takes off, and you basically have a whole nother distribution up here. So that's what I'm talking about with the distributions. Merge it back, and when we came down here and it was rejected. Now remember, market internals were not suggesting that the market is heavily selling off. They were mostly neutral, a little bit positive at times, a little bit negative at times. I don't know what happened at this point in the day when we got up here, but the part of the day where I was on the playing field, it was pretty neutral. So when it's that way, you know, there's not like bigger players involved, theoretically, and you can expect, you know, just follow the auction market process. So one thing that I had on here as a plan is that we re-entered the range 2 days back. So not just Monday, but Friday. And then the strategy would be to get short to trade to the other side of range. And there's some different ways to enter. And what you wanted to see was we entered yesterday's initial balance, and we did that in C period, or the lower distribution. And we didn't quite get to the volume distribution, but we did get into the initial balance and the TPOs. Build value, and the market internals would support that direction. Well, two things did not happen. And a lot of times, it's not about what happens. Like we did break into the yesterday's range. That doesn't mean it automatically goes short. We didn't build any value. You know, this was not really value. You can see how it just thins off, right? If we just spent a lot more time in here and there was heavy volume traded, we might be starting to build value. You might want to then get short against the overnight low, or maybe this pivot point, or some ledge in here, things like that. Let me shorten this up here so I can show you. We were in the Friday's range as well, because I said the range 2 days back. Okay. So C period came in to the initial balance of yesterday. It also was into the latter part of Friday. But we didn't build value. And because we didn't build value, when we came back out of here, that would be a signal to get long as it comes back into the overnight range. And I think that's one of them I took and worked out. But that's sort of what happened. And again, we anticipated what might happen coming into the day. So again, here I have the, why does that look a little blurry? I guess it didn't take a great snapshot. Now, the last thing that might happen, because we opened in range and value, I didn't know it was going to go up or down, right? But we did go down first. I mean, the first part of the day was correcting some of the overnight inventory, if you want to call it correcting. You know, they squeezed these people back up and then came back down, and came down here, and we didn't find more sellers. In fact, the selling dried up, right? And then the buyers step in, push it back out. So we rejected this area down here of value and this area of the other day of value, and we continued back this time. And this is when now you see a big move to the upside. So we come back all the way through here, all the way through the IB, and then the plan for story number 4 was to take out, let me pull this in here, take out the previous high a day with continuation. Take out the previous high day with supporting volume. That's the strategy. There's entry I use, and the condition is the market internals support the buy side. So we want to see the market internals to start to show like heavily weighted to the buy side. I don't know what happened here. Let's look at the volume best we can on the profile here. So this purple line says CVPOC. That's the contract volume point of control. It happens to be exactly on Monday's high, so you don't see the previous high of day line there, but it's there. Okay, I mean, you might barely be able to see it. It's kind of blue. Okay, you can see the blue there. So whoops, that's not it. Up here, blue. So we came through. You can see there was some volume that built around here. I wouldn't say it's particularly great, but I might have been looking on a lower time frame and look to get long against this high, or maybe if it got a little higher up here, and then maybe get long against some kind of reversion on a different kind of chart. I don't know. You know, you could have done it as a breakout. I'm not a big breakout fan, but once E period came up here and matched M period, now we have a poor high. These two highs matched. I would imagine that it hit it and pulled off a little bit. That might have been a place to get long, and then come back, anticipating we're going to come back through and carry the auction higher, because this would be an unfinished auction. All right. So again, the plan was to come back through and hopefully get supporting volume to break through it. It looks like that happened, and the market internals would continue to support that. This would have been a really beautiful trade to take a piece of this. This red zone here is just, you know, it's kind of it's just a zone. All right, so think of it like a pivot area. And, you know, you could have reloaded down here and gone. I mean, that's getting fancy and expecting that you're going to take every tick out of the market. And that's not realistic, really. That's not how it goes for me. And again, by this time of day, I'm actually kind of knackered. And I had actually stepped away at this point. So let me move this back here. Put these back together. And then, you know, we did get we got some consolidation here, and then a continued move to the you got to remember, though, this is 1, 2, 3 hours, right? You know, I am not typically in trades that long. But when it came all the way up here, then in K period, it flushed back down, and we ended up closing back inside of yesterday's range and value. So, you know, it's not changed very much. We weren't too far off to settle. You know, that's the way it played out, based on coming into the day, opening in range and value, and looking at this pattern. It gave us an opportunity based on the way the market opened. The news was all done. It was very kind of slow, methodical, and we'd hit certain like lines on the chart, these levels. We'd hit these levels and reverse off of them, and they made great targets, or they made great jumping off points, you know. So that's today, and that's my little review of the profile for today. We ended up with value overlapping to higher, and tomorrow we don't really have, well, you could argue we have a double distribution, but it's not very clear. There's lots of little bumps in here. It's not yeah, we'll see what it looks like tomorrow, fresh eyes, and see how the market trades in the Globex session, and do it all over again, and try to come up with some different ideas, just imagining what would happen, and if it does happen, what conditions will we need for that to actually work? Because we could have opened in range, in value, expecting to buy the value area low or sell the value area high, but this thing was just raging. It just rocketed up, like it just exploded to the upside. Well, we don't want to sell the value area high like that. We'd want it to come off of that, and we want to see it slow down up there. If we're thinking about selling it, and watch our risk and everything. Okay, well, that's my video. I hope it wasn't too long or boring, and that you get something out of it if you watch it. So thank you very much, and I do intend to make more of these on a daily basis. It's just my own personal review and my own exercise, and there's also some other reasons I'm doing this. And if you benefit from it, great. I'm going to keep these public for now. So thank you very much, and make a great day.